election 2016, you've complained, and we agree, while there's been plenty of talk of horse races, polls, and personal weaknesses, there's not been nearly enough coverage of the real issues in this year's presidential race, like health care, tax plans, immigration. That's exactly why, starting tonight, Adam Riley will dive into one major issue each week. First up, terrorism, and the different ways the top candidates are vowing to tackle it.
At this point in the campaign, the differences between Trump and Clinton on terrorism seem pretty clear. Trump wants to use what he calls extreme vetting to keep Muslims with anti-American beliefs out. As for the so-called Islamic State,
I would bomb the shit out of them.
There's a smidgen of similarity there with Clinton, who says she'd intensify the air war against ISIS. But Clinton's anti-terror strategy also includes more gun control. And she sees Muslims in the U.S. and abroad as potential allies, who Trump's been alienating.
And we also need to make sure that the really discriminatory messages that Trump is sending around the world don't fall on receptive ears. He is becoming ISIS's best recruiter.
All of which might suggest that Trump is the anti-terror hawk, while Clinton is a dove. But Northeastern professor Max Abrams says it's not that simple. Abrams thinks we have to split Clinton and Trump's anti-terror strategies into two parts, foreign and domestic. Domestically, he prefers Clinton's approach.
Because mistreating the Muslim population will yield more radicals, because it will erode the quality of intelligence when they've identified people undergoing radicalization, and frankly, because it's just plain un-American to mistreat Muslims, as it is to mistreat any other group of people.
But Abrams also says the specter of terrorism at home stems directly from chaos in the Middle East, which was created by a foreign policy worldview that Clinton embodies. After all, he says, the former Secretary of State championed regime change in Iraq, Syria, and Libya.
It was actually Hillary Clinton leading the charge to topple Gaddafi, and Obama was much more reluctant. Hillary Clinton, to this day, defends that decision and says that it actually should be a model of how we should approach other countries in the Muslim world.
At first, Trump cheered intervention in Iraq and Libya, but now he calls himself a regime change skeptic. While some find that shift unconvincing, Abrams applauds it.
He is not totally consistent with how he would fight terrorists overseas, but he is a much less consistent supporter of regime change. And in general, I think that the terrorism problem that we're facing to a large extent has been driven by regime change.
Which leads Abrams to a provocative conclusion. When it comes to fighting terrorism abroad, it's Trump, not Clinton, who'd offer continuity with President Obama.
A lot of Americans, especially Democrats, are going to vote for Hillary Clinton because they view her as a continuation of Barack Obama. But the reality is that she has a very different take on foreign policy than Barack Obama, especially in the Muslim world.
It's hard to know if Democrats or Republicans will like that comparison less.
Adam Riley joins me now. Hey, Adam.
Jim.
So let me understand this, Professor. Trump wants to bring back waterboarding. He said he wanted to bomb those Iranian ships who were harassing American ships the other day. This is a man who's going to exercise restraint, according to the professor?
That is what Max Abrams hopes. The way he put it to me is, given his take on terrorism and how we should stop it, you know that Hillary Clinton is going to be overly aggressive when it comes to trying to put new regimes in the Middle East. There is a chance that Trump will get it right. So he's guardedly optimistic, I'd
Can you
say.
give me a Cliff Notes version of where the other two, I mean, Jill Stein,
That's
Green Party,
very easy,
and Gary Johnson, Libertarian.
If you like the idea of restraint overseas, they are the candidates for you.
Both.
Both of them, they're almost indistinguishable on this. They both say that terrorism has been created and exacerbated by our interventions in the Middle East, Iraq, Libya, our work in Egypt, and that the best way to end it is to pull back. Now, Johnson might be a little less apologetic, a little more combative. He says he wants to cut off financing for ISIS and groups like that. But he also has said that he thinks the threat of radical Islam is overblown.
You know what the other difference between the two is? Gary Johnson hasn't yelled at you yet. So
that's very true. We can work on it, yeah.
Adam, good to see you.